we're getting out of the gate a little late this week, so I apologize right off the top.
You want to give everybody a peek behind the curtain without all the graphic details?
Conrad, why don't you just kind of lay it out? You're much better, and I'll just chime in. But
so behind the scenes, Jeff and our crack producer Marcus and I, we all have sort of a standing appointment that we record our shows that are supposed to drop on Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern at 10:30 a.m. Central on Monday. So that way we can be as up to date and current as we possibly can be, with the exception of perhaps watching Monday Night Raw. And we've done that for a while, well over a year. And that's sort of been our standing appointment. And there's been some good-natured ribbing about Jeff, who prides himself on his punctuality, but has never actually shown up on time. And so whenever
I'm in pain right now. Go ahead.
So whenever we have to rearrange scheduling, I always say, when Jeff says 10:30 sounds good, and I immediately reply to the group text, 10:44, Jeff's running a little late. Now, I'm not doing that the day of. I'm doing that 4 days in advance, because that's just par for course with Jeff. He is the most scheduled and structured person I know. Before he was working with AEW, he had 15-minute intervals in his calendar. I only got 11 minutes, Connie. Got to talk fast, that sort of thing. So when I got the heads up that he wasn't going to be able to tape yesterday, or we needed to be sort of fluid with our times, I thought, something must be off. And it turns out it was. Like Kenny Omega couldn't take down the Last Outlaw. MJF knows better than even to try. And get out of here with Aubrey Edwards thinking she could hold a good man down. And Max Caster, please. But that damn dentist, and more importantly, the cash register at the dentist on the way out. Woo. He lost 2 straight falls yesterday, but here he is through gritted teeth. Maybe some fake ones now too. I don't know, but several $1,000s later, the Last Outlaw is here, and you've been the king of the mountain, and you've done all these crazy gimmick matches, but damn Isaac Yankem DDS, he got you, didn't he?
Folks,
my God.
I just I'll tell on myself, but tell on Conrad. As right before we hit play today, I kind of gave them the download, because it's all been by text. Yes, I had woke up yesterday morning. It kind of bothered me through the weekend, but a very, very back molar had to go. Never had a cavity in my life. Always had good luck there. It was tooth had to go. Got an implant put in. We talked root canal and all kinds of stuff. And I just said, hey, he goes, what's your schedule this week? Oh, I said, I fly to Portland, Oregon tomorrow. He said, okay, when you get back from that. I said, I'm not sure about this weekend. Very possible. Could go to Oakland. Not real sure. And then he said, well, what about next week? I said, that'd be Ontario and LA. And we know each other well. And I said, he goes, so you don't have anything really in the foreseeable future? I said, nope. And I said, all right, let's go for it. Just get it out. And he said, you up for it now? I said, do the whole ball of wax. So I had to text Conrad, Marcus, and all that. But when we sit down today and I kind of give them the update, Conrad's very first comment were, let me just ask you, Jeff, what hurt worse? The dentist procedure or the credit card exchange? He knows me well. Folks, I'm very grateful. And all kidding aside, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. I mean,
listen, let me brag on you for a minute. I don't think a lot of people have put this together, because you don't talk about it a ton. But my man started wrestling in the mid-'80s. But visually, I want you to show everybody on YouTube, myworldonyoutube.com. Show us a visual representation of the number of surgeries you've had, Jeff. With your hands. That's a big 0, a goose egg. And I ask you to think long and hard about some of your other favorite wrestlers you've grown up watching. Those that have been active since the mid-'80s to now, how many can say they've had 0 surgeries? And then when they do have a surgery, it's for a damn molar. Isn't that crazy? WCW couldn't catch you. World Class couldn't get you. Vince McMahon's WWF couldn't stop you. Get out of here, AEW. No, if you're going to hold a good man down, it's going to be old Isaac Yankum DDS. Who'd have thought?
Don't jinx me, Conrad. Don't jinx me, but no. All right.
That is a cool stat, realistically. To have wrestled as long as you have, 0 surgeries. I mean, you're probably the only wrestler in the history of the earth to do that.
I don't know about that, but
who else do you know? Seriously, who didn't have a surgery?
I feel like you're jinxing me, but I don't know. I mean,
I'm not trying to jinx you. I'm just saying, I think it's kudos for you knowing what your body can and can't do, trying to avoid crazy or dangerous spots or circumstances and mitigate risk as best as you can. And you've also done a lot of preventative stuff. I mean, we don't talk about this on air, but you've got a whole routine before you ever step through the ropes for warming up. And you've done that for a long, long time. And
true.
You've done a lot of preventative maintenance and a lot of holistic stuff. And I'm giving you your flowers. You're just not wanting to take them here.
Okay. But you know what? That when the doc sat down with me yesterday, they kind of go through all these things and all this. And how do you respond to this? And he said, what about pain meds? And he knows I'm in recovery. And I said, I'm not going down that route. But what he goes, well, he said, okay, you don't have to do that, but I'd like for you to kind of take a combo Tylenol and ibuprofen. And he goes, how do you do on that? I looked at him and I said, I can probably, I think I've probably taken less than 10, 15 Advil my entire life.
What?
Any of that. And you know what? My doc, Dr. Tim Adair, we've talked about this, having him like doing my world bonus.
Yes.
Just because it may not interest some folks, but health folks, it really may enlighten them. But you know, just getting with him, and he's a applied kinesiologist. You call him an AK doctor, but you know, his trade you would call a chiropractor. Most chiropractors kind of adjust bones. Then there's some that kind of work on the muscle tissue, and then the connective tissue, ligaments, and tendons, and all that kind of stuff. And then they'll get into nerves. And then there's other guys that just get into all three sides of the triangle, the chemical part of it, which is your nutrition, and then what you eat, and just preventive maintenance and all that kind of stuff. I got with him in 92, Conrad. In a car wreck going to Memphis, and it rattled my back good, and went to him, and he got me back up and running, and I've been with him ever since. Some folks at TNA, he came to TNA for a pretty long extended period of time and worked with everybody there. So some of the TNA guys will know that. But to me, listening to his guidance has paid incredible dividends. The ibuprofen, the pain pills, and all that, yes, it does get you out of pain. And I think there's a time and place for all that. But it also, if you take it kind of on the regular, it really masks what needs to be addressed. And that, I think that is the big thing, is people don't realize that kind of stay on the ibuprofen and the Advil and all this. Hey man, it works, and it works for a reason. It kind of masks the joints and where you're having the issues. The flip side of that is you're just kind of making things worse, and it's very hard on your kidneys and liver and all this. But man, we went really on a.
Wait, help me understand. You're saying, I mean, I just want to make sure, because I felt like I misheard there. Are you telling me in 40 years of wrestling, you've had less than 15 Advil, ibuprofen type pills?
Yes.
Well, how is that possible, Jeff?
Like,
what are you doing right now? You just had, I mean, I'm not saying this to be gruesome, and I hate to even be gross. Jeff had a drill in his mouth 2 hours ago.
Okay.
And you're not taking anything?
Okay. Here's a little different. No, here's the difference. In my recovery,
right,
I figured out this strange, miraculous kind of deal. Jeff doesn't know everything.
Okay.
So prior to getting sober, I mean, Conrad, I never had hangovers, but no, I wouldn't take none of that. And again, I'm going back to the if your body aches, it's aching for a reason. Go fix it, go treat it, go stretch it, get plenty of you would be amazed at what the water can do for your system on a consistent basis, because it keeps all the toxins flushed out. I am on ibuprofen right now. That's the only thing I've had. So yeah, that just to clear. Yes, Conrad, I haven't. And
I can't imagine all those years.
I was never a pain pill guy. Never. I mean, back in the day, and we've kind of covered this in Good Natured Fun, Road Dog, and I'm not calling him out because he's sober now too, is, it's like, y'all go have that. I'll be over here with my Rocky Mountain spring water and head down that road. That was just, I never. So I do think coming out of hard matches and that kind of stuff, the alcohol in your system helps you kind of come down.
Yes.
But when I put my feet on the ground the next morning, I was right back into my nutrition. I've taken it's probably around 20 vitamins a day since 92.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's a consistent deal. That's kind of driven my kids crazy with it, drive Karen crazy with it from time to time. But that was kind of my mindset, that you either got to go one way or the other. And Dr. Tim taught me this: if you don't want to go pharmaceuticals, then pal, you got to go the other way and make sure you're get your nutrition in on you. And that's just kind of the mindset I've had. Until Jacob got me. No, go ahead.
I'm fascinated by this conversation because, I mean, I knew you weren't a pain pill guy, but in my mind, like almost everyone listening to this, occasionally, I'm not saying every day, but a few times a year, gets a headache, just doesn't feel good, whatever.
Yeah.
And throw down a few Advil just to get some comfort or just to fall asleep if they've got some sort of nagging, whatever. And to know that you're, respectfully, basically a professional stuntman, a live action stuntman for 40 years, and you've not made that a regular part of your repertoire is amazing to me, especially when you say, well, I did it for the health benefits. But I also know that before I knew you, my friend Jeff was a bit of a partier. And it's like, how do you reconcile that? And we've just identified that, the prescription thing was never really your deal. Even the over-the-counter thing was never your deal. But in all your time in wrestling, you had to like have fun recreationally, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you reconcile that the recreational stuff, that's not, I think most people would go the other way. They're more likely to do an ibuprofen or an Advil or a Tylenol or whatever than they are recreational stuff. But when you're living that rock star road warrior life, the recreational stuff is just plentiful, right? I mean, it's there, it's offered, it's available.
Conrad, I'm going to give you a real peek behind the curtain on the last 6 years, if you will, just kind of because believe me, all of this has been addressed. Okay. Like, help me make sense of this.
Yes.
And I mean, again, you can only imagine the folks that have asked me this. And here's kind of, man, I'm going to say this, not as diplomatic, but I'm going to try to word this the best I can.
Okay.
So, because there's anonymity involved in this, but let's just, the 12 steps of recovery. Step 2. Okay. Step 2 is came to believe that a power greater than ourselves, you can call them God, you can call them whatever you want, but the step reads, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves, greater than Jeff in my case, can restore us to sanity. If you take that and really digest it, and I said this early, okay, restore to sanity. So you're telling me, counselor, you're telling me, sponsor, you're telling me, doctor, you're telling me, whoever it may be in my early discussions, that I'm insane? And Conrad, that is the disease of addiction in its very corest. The disease of addiction affects the brain where decisions are made. If you want to put us under an MRI and the lights up, and if you have somebody who has a gambling addiction, they do not think anywhere close to logical in that realm. And there's all kinds of, I mean, there's all kinds of different forms of addiction. Mine was obviously alcohol. So I didn't think rationally. And when you're on that, so me not taking any of that kind of stuff, in a lot of ways, yeah, that's insane thinking. He's going to go drink a lot of alcohol, but oh, dear God, don't put an Aleve in his system. I mean, you know what I mean?
That's where I was getting. It's like, I don't understand how we can reconcile that thinking, but you just nailed it. Like, hey, that is the business of active addiction. Like, you don't know what you're saying isn't very logical or rational.
Which to roll that domino down when you're in your sphere of wife or kids or friends, when you make that kind of insane decision over here, right?
Yeah.
And people look at you like, dude, you're nuts.
Yes.
So then you got to go over on this side of things. And even if you're saying something that is absolutely makes sense, they have to take it with a grain of salt and go, okay,
about that. Yeah.
yeah. So it's a family disease. And I say that because it extends in any family, friends, biological, blood, whatever it may be. So yeah, man, we really written down a rabbit hole, didn't we, pal? But I was going to say this, and here's kind of because I'm like, I might want to share this. How quickly, now the tooth hurt Sunday. Right. I woke up Sunday morning. I'm like, this ain't right. This ain't right. So as I'm kind of doing the chores around the house, and I got to update on Trap That Thing here in a minute, but man, how quickly forget a toothache. Like how, yeah, it hurt, folks. Scale of 1 to 10. Doctor asked me, is it, an 8 or a 9? And he's nodding his head like, yeah, it's probably an 8, 9, or 10. And I'm like, no, 4 or 5. He said, oh, come on. He said, do you have a high pain tolerance? Anyway, I say all that, okay, my pain was getting up there. But I did think, and I came in and I told Karen that, how quickly we forget when we don't have our health. And a really good buddy of mine from high school, played basketball with him. He's my financial advisor. I'll leave his name out of it, but there's folks that know he was recently diagnosed with ALS.
Oh man.
And yeah, Conrad, and just the strength that he's currently showing. And, it is something that I'm giving the recovery side of this, that, the gratitude I have that, Jeff, shake it off. Get out of your self-pity party. You got a damn toothache. Move on with it. I think that helps me when I'm saying, Jeff, that's all you're taking. Hey, yeah, I could bear a lot worse pain that others are going through right now. So prayers up. I'll on the podcast, I'll, from time to time, but life is tough, pal. But that news that I got last Wednesday night and then have carried through, it has been weighing heavily on me. But there will be a better day. There's no doubt.